So Hemu sir, you can just mute everyone. So hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, according to your time zones. So as we discussed and we told you that we will have every weekend some webinars. So we have SD1 webinar where Hemu sir had took around 4 classes and fifth class will be tomorrow. Sometimes we will have cloud sessions. Sometimes we will have F5 sessions. So basically our agenda is mostly is to cover all the questions and all the technologies which are demanding and which can increase your package, plus it can help you to differentiate with other people. So I got many questions. Many people reach out to me when they take videos or when they take our live classes. So do you have the list of questions which are being asked in interview? So this question everyone asked. So guys, trust me, there are no fixed questions which are available in market. There are some documents, but that are very basics. But when anyone take your interview, they will ask you questions related to production scenarios. So guys, that's what we are covering in both Palo Alto and F5. So we will have every weekend webinars on Palo Alto F5. Then we will have sometimes on ASM, GTM, LTM. So around 100, 200 questions. So minimum 100 question sessions we will cover. So far we have done 2 webinars for F5 Ltm. So that anyways, you can see in our application. So when you go to store, we have a video available. So everything we have uploaded in our applications. So today video will also get uploaded in our application. So you can just go here on this folder and here you can get it. So previous 2 webinars are available here. First one, second one, and today is the third series. So every series we will cover questions, different questions. And guys, I have initiated a Google 5, which I will share with you all so that you can also fill the form. And Hemu sir, you can just share them on the chat, that Google form, this Google form, because I'm so that they can fill the form I'm also sharing. So guys, what initiative I have taken is, maybe you have attended F5 interview and maybe some questions have been asked by you. So let's say there is one person, Ajit. It's up to you. Which questions I have made the form where I've asked which questions you have faced in your company. So many people have filled form. So I will take questions one by one. So I've taken the question, let's say Rahul, I can see many, Rahul, Ajit, everyone has shared some questions. So that way it would be really benefit, right? Because you all are having interviews in different organizations. So we will collect all the questions in Google form and then we will can cover it. So let's go to the starting. So I will go this form from the starting. And what is my agenda is, I have made some questions on the live. So our main purpose is to have mock interviews daily, weekends, which can cover concepts, which can cover configuration plus scenario based. So these are the 3 strategy which I will be implementing. So guys, my one of the colleague, Mohan, he has faced many interviews related to F5 and he is able to crack also, some he is not able to crack, and which I need to make sure that from next webinars he will be able to correct. So always he knows the technology, but he faced the issue. So the what questions he have been faced, let me cover first. So first question which has been asked in interview is, why an LB is required? Why F5 LTM? These are all production questions which are been asked in XYZ organization by one of my colleague. One colleague attended interview, but he was not able to correct. Next interview, he was able to correct. So after that, I started this that I want to help my community so that they can clear n number of interviews. So first question which has been asked in interview is why a load balancer is required, guys. What is one arm mode versus two arm mode? So this is the common 100% question which will be asked in every interview. So let's cover this. So guys, first of all, whenever you deploy F5, you need to understand the current architecture. Two question which he has faced is first why L5 is required. So first, let's say I have a client which is coming from internet, then I have a firewall, then I have F5, then I have, let's say, switch, then I have servers, server 1, server 2, server 3. So question number 1 is why F5 or why a load balancer is required. So guys, my cross question to someone is, without F5 or without a load balancer, what will happen? What is the disadvantage when I don't have a load balancer coming into picture? So guys, let's say I have a client coming from internet, then I have a firewall, and then I have a direct server. I don't have, so this is picture 1 and this is picture 2, where I don't have load balancer. So in that case, what will happen, guys? Let's say I have 100 users coming from internet connecting to firewall. Firewall will just forward the request to the server directly. In that case, what will happen, guys? Let's say if this server goes down. Okay, let's examine that this server goes down. In that case, guys, my customer says that I have an application SIANETS.com that needs to be 24/7 available, because this is a critical website. I don't want this website to be down. So in that case, what will happen, guys? If this server goes down, is there any backup of this server, guys? So that is where we need one load balancer which can manage the load and which can transfer. Let's say if this server goes down, F5 will come to know that request should forward to this server or this server. So that is the first advantage of why an F5 or load balancer is required. Second case, guys, let's say this server can only handle 70 requests at a time, but my customer has 100 users coming from internet. So this server will get overloaded, overutilized. CPU issue will happen, memory issues can come. So that is where load balancer main role come in. Load plus balancer. Load means customer request. Balancer means I want, let's say F5 request comes from here, from firewall to F5. F5 knows that some request he can transfer to this server, some request he can transfer to server 2, some request he can forward to server 3. So that is where the concept comes, load balancing algo. So that are the two. So see, guys, whenever interview asks you, you don't need to go into detail like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So you need to be crisp. You need to have a proper 1 or 2 line answer. If you modify something, guys, interviewer can ask something more. So if customer asks you or if company asks you why LB is required, so you just need to tell advantages. So first advantage is availability. My application is 24/7 available when I have load balancer coming into picture. Second thing is scalability. If one server goes down, load can be managed by second server. Third thing which happens is load managed. Both are same. Fourth thing is, guys, security. So in security, when I talk about, there is a ASM module which has been covered. So don't worry, we will cover more questions on ASM, but today mostly I will discuss F5 basics. It's a combination. So guys, F5 is a company like Cisco, Juniper, and people have confusion. Like what is LTM, GTM, and ASM? So guys, LTM is a plain load balancer. I cannot say plain, but it's an application based load balancer. And guys, very important term. Why it is called LTM? What is the full form? You must know F5 load balancer, F5 load balancer. But if someone asks you what is the full form of LTM, that is called local traffic manager. Very important, guys. Then there is a term come GTM, global traffic manager. So people will ask you this question: what is the difference between LTM and GTM? And one more module is ASM, that is called web application firewall. Very important, guys. Now, so these are, I hope if Mohan or someone is there, I hope now you can answer this question why LB is required. If anyone has any other question, they can ask when I will take some Q&A at the end of the session. So don't worry, guys, please be stay on, even you are in office or something. These are very critical sessions which we are delivering. It's free of cost. We are not taking anything. Some people were not able to crack interview, so we have taken this initiative so that next time they should give us the good news that they are able to crack. I want that questions. Every question is different, so don't worry, please stay with us. Now, guys, this question, guys, I will discuss in Q&A, LTM versus GTM, because I have many other questions to discuss. But guys, I will just say why this is termed as local traffic manager means you have an F5, you have a DC data center, you have a client coming from internet, then you have servers, server 1, server 2, server 3. Why this is called local traffic manager is because F5 is hosted also in same data center and your servers are hosted locally on same data center. But guys, sometimes customer will say, I want that this server is located in India and user is coming from India. It should go to India data center. Some requests are coming from US data center. It should go to US server. In that case, guys, your server should be located in different data center. That is called global load balancer. That is called global traffic manager. It is also called DNS, guys. F5 has termed this as domain name intelligent DNS. Very important, guys. See, every term has some logic why it is called local. As an interviewer, I can also ask, see, company wants to understand whether you are working or not. They will not go much deep, but they will ask you some questions which they want to understand either you know the concepts or not. So that is the difference between LTM versus GTM and why LB is required. Next question, guys, which come to picture is difference between one arm mode versus two arm mode in F5, guys. Very common question which you will see in many interviews. So guys, let's see what is one arm mode, one is two arm mode. So let me draw a topology. First, I will tell you two arm mode deployment. So these are called deployment modes in F5. So if someone will ask you guys production scenario, they will ask you how you're deploying F5. Are you deploying one arm mode or two arm mode? So that is why you need to tell them. So you need to understand what is one arm. These are design deployment. So let's go further on. So guys, when I say two arm mode, that is meaning is I have a client, I have a firewall, I have a switch, I have servers, server 1, server 2, server 3, and this switch is layer 2. I'm just talking about layer 2. So in two arm mode, guys, what will happen is F5 will segregate your network. One is front-end network and another is back-end. So when I say two or mode, it means two interfaces of F5. Simple meaning is two interfaces of F5 will be used. One is this interface and one is this interface. This will be your external interface, which will be connected to external world, and this will be your internal interface that is connected to internal architecture. So that is what is the difference one arm versus two arm, guys. So in this case, guys, what will happen is very important thing happen is they will ask you two arm mode. Two arm modes means two interfaces of F5. Simple meaning is that two interfaces of F5 is required. That's it. Now, guys, what will happen is, so when I deploy, let's say I'm deploying in VMware environment. So I will use one network as external. External network, let's say I have external network 192.168.1.0 network. Another network is 10.2.2.0/24. It means two networks are used. One is for server network, one is for external. That is why it is called two arm mode. Okay, guys. Now, if I come further on, what is one arm mode? This is called two arm mode. In most of the cases, guys, two arm mode is suggested. Why? Because it is segregated. Your external network is segregated from internal network. Are you getting me? Your external network is a segregation and internal network is on separate network. So when I open F5, I will show you quickly. So when I go here, I will go to local traffic, virtual server, network, interfaces. So this is how you can examine whether you are using two arm mode or not. So can you see this? You are having two interfaces. One is 1.1 and one is 1.3. So guys, F5 interface is examining by this description 1.1, 1.3. And how you can examine is two interfaces means then you will check your VLANs. You can see external and internal. That is what I told you, right? F5 has one interface as external, one as internal. Can you see? 1.3 is on internal, 1.1 is on external. And if I show you the IP architecture, IP schema, then you can see your external network has an IP 192.168.1.50 and your internal network is 10.2.2.50. That is the difference between an external network versus internal, and that is called two arm mode deployment. If someone asks you a picture to deploy, you can deploy two clients, you can show them. Then you can say front-end network. Firewall can become then F5. Then you have switch, which is called backend. Then you have servers. Server 1, server 2, server 3, depends on you. So load balancer is coming into picture. It's acting as a man in middle. So that is called two arm mode architecture. Now guys, what is one arm mode? So guys, one arm mode means you have a client. Just see the picture. You have a client. Then you have an F5 here. You have common interface. Common interface means common VLAN or common network also you can say. Then you have servers. Server 1, server 2, server 3 guys. So guys, in this case, what will happen is guys, your traffic and your this interface, this interface, nothing is there. Only a single interface is used. So again, I will draw client, client, then this is common, this is one F5 interface. Then we have servers. So in this case, guys, only one interface of F5 will be used. There is no separate network for external network and internal network. Only one interface will be used to connect both your client network and server network. So that is called one arm mode. In one arm mode means F5 is not acting as a middle device. In this case, your client and your servers are in common network. Because you will have only one interface of F5 guys. What is the use case of this guys? Let me show you that. So don't get confused between snat, nat or this. One arm means only one interface of F5 is used. Common network, only one VLAN you can use. Two arm means two network, two interface will be used. Simple differentiate between one arm and two arm mode. So one arm means guys, you have a client, you have a firewall, you have an F5. Let's say your servers is here hosted and server gateway is firewall. And these servers are hosted on cloud network. Please try to understand. Your servers and your client all are on internet. Your client is also coming from internet and your servers are hosted on also on internet. So in that case, what will happen is guys, traffic will come from this interface. It will go to F5 on this interface. Now, guys, F5 will check my server, is it directly connected? No, because this server is hosted in internet. So there is some routing I need. So in that case, guys, F5 will have a default route towards firewall because server gateway is firewall. In that case, what will happen, guys? Your incoming traffic will also go through this interface and your outgoing traffic also goes via this interface. That is called one arm mode. Because to reach a clear picture is, let's say you have client, you have firewall, you have F5, then you have server, which is hosted on cloud, AWS or Azure, and server gateway is firewall. Now, traffic will come this way. It will come to F5 on your virtual IP. Virtual IP is nothing but a URL of your website. Now, F5 will check whether your server is hosted where. Either your servers are directly connected due to on self IP network, which we have, right? We have two interfaces. So either servers can be on this network. If servers are on not on directly connected interface, then we need a routing table on F5. So now F5 will see, oh, servers are not directly connected. Then it will check, let's say this server IP is 1.1.1. It will check to reach this IP, do I have the route? So F5 has a routing table default route towards firewall. In F5, there is a routing to reach this server. F5 should transfer the packet to firewall. So this is called one interface. Incoming and outgoing is using only one interface. So that is called one arm mode architecture. Live use case, guys. Right now, everyone is moving into cloud. So that is a live example on how you can integrate 1-arm and 2-arm mode. Now guys, let's go further. I hope now no one will forget 1-arm mode and 2-arm mode. Now let's come into another question. I will open these questions. Very important live production question which will be asked. What are all pre-checks you will do before VIP configuration? Question is, guys, you have an F5 deployment in your company. You have already deployed your F5 in your organization. But requirement is from the customer is, I need to create one application behind F5. My customer is saying that I have to deploy one application on F5. So what are the pre-checks which are required before you do VIP configuration? VIP is nothing, guys. There are three terms. One is VIP, one is pool, and one is pool member. So whenever you deploy F5, guys, these are the three hearts, important critical terms which you should know. So VIP is nothing but a URL of your website. Whenever you access like sianets.com, google.com, that is called a URL. And servers which you are deploying, server 1, server 2, server 3, with port number, let's say 80443, that are called pool member. And the combination of this server is called your pool. So if I do a pictorial representation, so client traffic will always hit to your VIP. First, traffic will always hit your VIP. VIP is nothing but your website URL. That is called front end traffic. And what is called, let's say I have server 1, I have server 2, I have server 3. That are called your pool member. Pool member are nothing but a combination of server plus port number. So that is called pool member. Because F5 main role is to get load balance. Some traffic should go from this client to this. Let's say next client come in. That traffic should go to this server. Let's say next request come in. That request go to server 2. Now what are the pre-checks? First pre-checks is, guys, whenever you deploy new application or new VIP, when you need to create on F5, first thing is you need to check whether DNS entry is there. Because every URL which I am creating, let's say I'm creating one VIP 192.168.160, that should be associated with your domain name. How ISP, let's say I have a client, I have an ISP, then I have a firewall, then I have an F5, then I have a server. How ISP will come to know that client is connecting to sianets.com, that traffic should go to F5. So there should be DNS entry. F5 Ltm is not a DNS solution, guys. So there must be some external DNS which needs to do a record on DNS. Let's say if sianets.com is one domain which I need to configure under F5, I need to give the IP. I just need to tell them that I'm using this IP. Can you create a record on DNS? Very important, guys. Even when you troubleshoot, guys, let's say customer is saying that my URL I'm not able to access. First thing is you need to check whether NS lookup is working or not. That is the first pre-checks before you configure a VIP. Now, a second thing which you need to do is, guys, once a DNS entry is done, second step is you need to ask them about SSL certificates, whether they want to host website on 443 or just a plain text. So you need to ask them about SSL certificates if they want to host website on HTTPS, guys. In that case, guys, you need a certificate which will be given by your customer. That is the second prerequisite which you need to ask. Third question, guys, which you need to ask is you have two connection. One is client to F5, one is F5 to the server. Very, very important thing which I'm discussing now. Whether you want this connection to be on 443 and this connection to be on 443, or you want front end connection to be on 443 and this connection to be on 80. Very, very important question, guys. Here comes the term Ssl offloading. Many people knows this, but do you know this? What is the difference between Ssl offloading versus Ssl bridging? Very, very important. And third, Ssl pass through. So this question, guys, if you forgot to ask, then it will have a trouble. So you need to ask, because F5, guys, very important thing. When you deploy F5, F5 is deployed, two TCP connection will be done. One from client to F5, one from F5 to the server. There are two three-way handshake will be done. One is between TCP handshake between client to F5, one is this. So you need to ask whether your front-end network should be 443 and F5 to the server should be 80. In that case, guys, you don't need nothing. You just need to create Ssl offloading. That is called Ssl offloading, which means only client to F5 will be encrypted. Your F5 to the server will be plain text. Very, very important, guys. First, DNS query. Second thing, you need to ask about SSL query, whether they need end-to-end encryption. End-to-end means client to F5 should be encrypted and F5 to the server should be encrypted. If they say they need only client to F5 on 443, then you can only configure this connection to be on 443. So let me just show you quickly. When I say client to F5 connection should be on 443 and your F5 to the server connection should be on 80. What does it mean, guys? So I will go to local traffic, virtual server. I will open this virtual server. Here you can see, guys. One is client SSL profile. Very, very important, guys. Every scenario will be covered by an example. So don't worry, in this way you will remember. One is server. See, interviewer will know, right? If you answer this type of question with an example, then interview comes to know that you are working professional. People comes to me that, hey, sir, I'm working. I have a knowledge, but I'm not working in this technology. How I can answer, guys? Trust me, guys, F5 gives you a free license. You can practice n number of labs. So client SSL profile means your client to F5 would be encrypted. Server SSL means F5 to the server will be encrypted. So if only client to F5 should be encrypted, that is called SSL offloading. If they want client to F5, F5 to the server both encrypted, then that is called SSL bridging. Another thing, guys, these are the three pre-checks you have done. You have gathered the requirement. Another thing is fourth question, whether they want TCP based load balancer or they want HTTP based load balancer. So guys, you can deploy F5 in layer 4 also. You can deploy F5 on layer 7 also. So you need to understand whether they need any HTTP features, whether they need any compression or any layer 7 modification. So that is where HTTP profile is needed, guys. If someone says that if they want L7 load balancer, in that case, you need to call HTTP profile under web. Can you see this? HTTP profile. So what is the role of profile mean, guys? How F5 will come to know whether request is HTTP based or whether request is a simple TCP based. So that concept helps by profile. So whether they need a layer 7 load balancer or just a normal load balancer. I hope that is clear. That thing you need to ask your interviewer. Very, very important, guys. This question will be asked. What is the difference between Ssl offloading, Ssl profile? So you need to answer this properly. This is the prerequisite also, guys. Now, guys, you have cleared 4th point. Now 5th point is, guys, how many application, how many servers you need to deploy behind F5? Very, very important question, guys. Now we have done this. Client to F5 requirement is clear. Now behind F5, how many servers you need to do load balance? That is called pool member. Because to know pool member configuration, you should know how many servers are needed behind F5. So that is another pre-check. So how to create pool member, guys? For that, you need to go to pools. Here I have two pools, pool members. So first you need to understand how many servers are needed. And second thing is, guys, which load balancing method they need to use, whether they want a round robin. So guys, let's say client traffic comes. Let's say I have this client, this client, this client. Then I have an F5. Then I have server 1, server 2, server 3. Let's say this client comes, this client comes, this client comes. Now I want this client request should go to this server. Next request from this should go to this server. Third should go to this server. So this is decided by load balancing method. So that is called another requirement. You need to understand, right? Which load balancing algo they want and how many servers. And another important point is, guys, your servers, let's say you have a server which have application hosted. Application hosted are on which port? Whether 8443, so port number is also required. So when you create any pool member, guys, let's say I want to add one new server. So in that case, guys, you need to define IP and you need to also define port number. Let's say 80. So you need to define that whenever you create any pool member. So that are the prerequisites, pre-checks which are required. I hope this will understand, this will clear your this question which was asked. So we have discussed why LB is required, what is one arm versus two arm, and third question is what are the pre-checks? 3 questions we have discussed. Another question, guys, which always create a confusion. What is the difference between a self IP versus a floating IP? This question confuse everyone. What is difference? So anyone can just tell me on chat what is difference between self IP versus floating IP, and I will just tell you by diagram. So guys, when I talk about self IP, guys, have you heard about SVI? Switch. In router, there is a term called switch virtual interface or SVI. So guys, whenever you create a layer 2 VLAN, you should you will have one layer 3 VLAN which will used for routing different network. So I have created a VLAN. I have created one VLAN external, one VLAN I have created internal. That should be associated with IP, right? So that is called a self IP in F5. Simple, self IP is nothing but a layer 3 IP address assigned to a VLAN. So we create a VLAN, right? Let me show you. So when I go into network, we have created a VLAN. One is internal, one is external. But how to differentiate, right? Which IP VLAN segment, which network is in an external network? So my external network is 192.168.1.0 and my internal network is 10.2.2.0/24. So where you define? So you go to self IP and you define. So that is called self IP is nothing but a layer 3 subnet or an IP assigned to simple. Another case, guys, let's say you have a client, and you have F5, then you have servers. What should be the gateway of this server? What should be the gateway of this server? What should be the gateway of this server? So gateway for this server, these are internal server, guys, right? And my internal server self IP is 10.2.2.50. So self IP has many cases. So self IP can be used as a gateway also for the server. First case. Second is for every VLAN, you need to create a separate self IP, separate network, a layer 3. So that is the interface IP also, you can say. Self IP is nothing but an interface IP. It is the same way which is configured as HSRP, VRRP also, which I will discuss. Floating IP concept I will discuss. So every server which you create, you will define a gateway, right? Let's say server gateway is F5, then you need to define what is there. Even guys, another advantage of F5, I forgot to tell you, we have client, we have this client, then we have F5, then we have 3 servers, server 1, server 2, server 3. Let's say this server goes down. How F5 will come to know that traffic should not forward to this server? Traffic should forward either to this server or this server. In that case, guys, there is a concept comes health monitor. Health monitor examines that when server goes down, traffic should F5 should not forward traffic to down server. Because if traffic should send to this server, guys, you will face intermittent outage. Slowness issues will come. So self IP is also used for monitoring. So self IP is also used in monitoring F5. Which interface IP? Question will ask. F5 uses which interface IP to monitor server this. So you will say internal IP address. Now guys, floating self IP. Floating self IP, guys, that will only come into picture when you have F5 deployment in HA. Let's say I have one F5 in active mode, one F5 in passive mode. Let's say I have a client, then I have servers, pool, server 1, server 2, server 3. So at a time, guys, floating IP will be same. Are you getting? Let's simply, I will tell you. Let's say this server IP, I have this server, this server, this server. And this server is active, this F5 is passive. Now let's say server gateway is this one, 10.2.2.50, this IP, let's say 10.2.51, because on both you will create one local self IP and one floating. Your local self IP is different on different boxes, but floating self IP is common. I'm giving you an example. Let's say this server gateway is this server gateway is this server gateway is this. Now guys, let's say this box goes down and failover happens, all the traffic will go to this server. In that case, guys, will you receive outage or not? Simple question I am asking. Because your server gateway is pointing to this F5 and this F5 goes down. Now traffic is going via this path. High availability means if one device goes down, traffic should be forwarded to another F5. In that case, simple question is if your all server, I'm just drawing a picture. You have a client, your F5 is deployed in HA. You have one F5 here, one F5 here. Then you have server 1, server 2, server 3. All gateways are pointing to this one. Now this box goes down. Will you receive outage or not, guys? Even traffic is shifted to this, but server gateways are still pointing to only F5 active device. So that is where, guys, a floating self IP comes into picture whenever you are deploying active passive HA environment. So that common IP is used. Let's say common IP is 10.2.50. So it is same as a HSRP or VRRP. So each and every self IP which you create, you need to create a floating IP when you deploy F5 in HA mode. So it will helpful when server gateway needs to point out to common IP, right? In that case, nothing will happen. If this goes down, traffic will go here because server gateway is a floating IP. So that is common. So that is an example of floating versus a normal self IP. So these are the things which we have discussed. Now, guys, another question which I have seen many cases which will be asked is, what is content check monitor? You will, simple question will be asked, content check monitor. Use case of this monitor in F5. So guys, you don't need to tell, you just need to tell the use case of this or what is content check. So before that, you should know what is monitor. I hope everyone knows. Otherwise, I will tell you from where you can watch that. In monitors, guys, there are different monitors comes. First is address check. Another one is survey check monitor. And there is one monitor which is called content check monitor. So guys, what is an advantage of content check monitor is, guys, in address check, it will just check ICMP request, whether, let's say I have F5, I have 3 servers, server 1, server 2, server 3. It will just check the reachability, whether this server is up, this server is up, this server is up. In survey check, it will do check whether your server, let's say this is 10.2.30, 10.2.2.31, 10.2.2.32, port number are 80, 80, 80. So when I say survey check, TCP is an example of survey check monitor. So in that case, guys, reachability is also checked, but it will also check whether 80 port is listening or not. That is called, guys, survey check monitor, and TCP is an example of survey check monitor. Now, guys, if some customer says that I want to also check the content, server is up, that is fine. Port is also listening, but I want to check whether in this server index.html file is present, content, whether that directory is present or not. So guys, in content check, it will check your IP plus port connection, plus it will check data also. Example is HTTP. So in that case, what will happen is, once a TCP connection is built between F5 to the server, F5 will send one GET request. So simple in content check is what will happen is I will give you. Let's say you need to go to local traffic, monitor tab. I will create one new monitor content check. I will go to HTTP monitor. I will say type HTTP. Now guys, these two things you need to give. Very, very important. Send string. So let's say I have F5. I have server. I need to check whether on this server index.html file is present or not. So F5 will send GET request. So HTTP works on which layer? Request and response header. So you will configure GET, then you will configure index.html, and in receive string, you should, if there is a file, then it should response you with 200. Okay. If you're not, if this page is not there, then your server will be down. So how you can check is, guys, I have one server, I will show you. So I have one Windows server. I will log in into that. Here I will go into my computer, local C XAMPP. So there is one htdocs file. So can you see this? I want to check whether this file is there or not. If this file is not there, then F5 will mark server as down. And what you are getting on this file, that should be in your receive string. Let me open. So I'm getting this. So what I will do is I will configure. Let's configure HTTP string quickly. I will get index.html and receive string I'm doing 5. Or let's say I'm not configuring 5. I'm configuring anything else. 4. I will finish. I will create one HTTP monitor. I've done it. See, when I'm accessing index.html, your response should be something like this is server 5. If that pattern is not found, then server should be down. So let's create it. I will go to pool. I will create one pool of windows. I will select HTTP. I will select 10.2.2.35. Port number I need to check which port is it's listening. I will go here. So port is, these are the some ports. So let's say 80 is one port. HTTP, add, finish. So now pool of windows. Okay, guys. Now what I will do is, in this case, pool of window, I have configured HTTP as a monitor. Now what I will do is, see, HTTP monitor. But guys, what will happen? Is it correct? Why it is up, guys? I have not configured correctly, but it's still up. Can someone tell me? When I go to pool of windows, it is showing me up. But according to me, it should be down. Anyone, guys? This is an interview question live scenario, guys. I have configured in HTTP, guys. When I go to monitor, I have configured HTTP monitor receive string 4. But when I go here on this page, I have this is server 5. But here I have 4. It should be down. But when I go into pool of windows, this server is up. Anyone? Because I have configured wrong monitor. Here I should select HTTP monitor. Very, very important, guys. By default, I implemented a default monitor, which is wrong. I modified a new, I created a new one, right? I'm assigning a new one. Now let's see what will happen. It's checking, it's doing its interval check. It's checking whether you're getting, so see guys, it is down. Why? Now I will change, I will do some change on my HTTP monitor. I will change into 5. Receive string means what you're getting from response page from index when you're accessing get. So when I access get, I'm getting this is index file, right? Server file. Now let's see what will happen. I will go to pool. See guys, this server is up. So that is where it checks your content. So that is why it is called content check monitor.